I'm a lot better now, but at that point I was someone that was very I internalized a lot, and I wouldn't express like my thoughts or like my concerns to like, you know, even my friends and my family. It's only more in the last maybe 3 or 4 years where I've like worked on that.
Tell us about young Connagh then. What was it like growing up in the 90s in Cardiff?
I enjoyed like growing up, you know, my childhood, school years, things like that. I think, you know, it was good, but I think like it was a completely different landscape back then, you know what I mean?
So coming back to Glantaf, what does it feel like? Is it weird?
Yeah, very strange, very strange. Like I think like in a way it's changed a lot, but in a lot of ways it hasn't as well.
Same teachers, same smells, same
Yeah,
vibe, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So you're saying about growing up in the 90s and the perception of what it means to be a man. What was that like? Was there like a certain way you had to be, do you think?
Probably like really good with the girls, like you can, you know, you're super super, you look after yourself, like you're in good shape, you might like, you know, hit the weights and stuff. And then I think there was a period as well, because I used to play rugby, I was exposed to a lot more of like lad behaviour in it. It's like, go on, go talk to that girl, blah, blah. Or be out like after playing rugby, we're like talking about like, oh, what do you think of this girl, she's fit, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, do you know what I mean? Blah, whereas I've always been shy, so I think like being in that environment definitely pushed me out my comfort zone quite a bit.
Let's talk a bit about your Love Island experience then.
Yeah.
Going into it, how did you prep for that?
I'd watched the show, I'd been approached to go on it a few times before, and I was kind of always like put off a little bit. I thought, oh, I don't think I could do that. I think it was like something that was like proper outside my comfort zone. And then I was approached to go on it again, and I thought, oh, do you know what, like what's the worst that can happen? I was thinking, oh, I want to try and get in shape and stuff like that, you know, being like very sort of like shallow sort of thinking, you know, I want to look good in telly and stuff. But then I had like a bit of a moment where I kind of like realised, oh, you know, I'm in this now. You see the cameras everywhere, and I had a bit of a moment. I was thinking, oh Christ, like, what have I done?
Oh, really? It was all real?
Yeah, it got very real very quick.
Relationships is a big part of Love Island, of course. And, you know, in the outside world, you meet someone and then you meet your friends and tell them about that person you've met, or you tell your family, or you know, you have a network of people. In Love Island, you're completely on your own, isolated. Yeah, you can speak with the other people in the villa, but what was it like when it came to like meeting that person and having to just do it on your own back without any feedback? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think for me, if I'm 100% honest, when I went in there was no one that I really sort of had that sort of connection or like massive attraction to. So I did find that difficult, because then you're kind of like in this position where you feel like you're kind of forcing something, but then again, like you've got no one that you can really sort of confide that in, or even if you do, you don't necessarily know if like that person has got like your, you know, the same, you've got your back as if like a family or a friend would have, you know. So I think that was, in that sense, it is kind of like an isolating experience. And I personally struggle. I'm a lot better now, but at that point, I was someone that was very I internalized a lot, and I wouldn't express like my thoughts or like my concerns to like, you know, even my friends and my family. It's only more in the last maybe 3 or 4 years where I've like worked on that. So I think, yeah, that was something that was highlighted as well. You know, you are having these like talks in your head, and you're thinking, oh, is this person right for me? Do I like this person? Blah, blah. But then, you know, I kept all that bottled up.
We mentioned just now about how Love Island can impact people's perception of things like relationships, but do you think that social media plays a part in that?
I think it has had a detrimental effect. I was like obviously quite lucky growing up, and you know, social media wasn't really a thing, so you weren't really exposed to that. But like you do, literally, when you're looking online, all you see is just like the good bits, the highlights of people's lives and relationships. And that can give you like a warped sense of like you might be going through a hard time in your relationship, thinking, oh, why can't my relationship be like so-and-so's that I've seen online? Life isn't always sunshine and roses. It's going to be hard times, and it's normal.
Yeah, definitely. And you say normal there, I think things like normalising certain elements that may not be going great in a relationship. Some of the terms you speak about, like, you know, love bombing or monitoring or negging, young men maybe don't like to talk about that kind of stuff. Why do you think that could be?
It's uncomfortable. Like, guys don't like to show their vulnerable side or like talk about like, you know, serious matters. Like, I can talk from my experience. There's only been like a handful of times that I've ever really like gotten quite like deep and vulnerable with like my mates and stuff. I think the uncomfortable thing for men is to be the one to initiate, to be like, oh, by the way, I've been struggling with it. You know who like your real mates are when you can have those conversations with them. There's been a few people whose like stories I've heard where they've kind of been like a victim of abusive behaviour, sort of like controlled, made to think that they're nothing without that other person. I've seen some of that kind of stuff, or like heard some of that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I think that's something that's like far too common for a lot of women to go through maybe at one point in their life, and I think a lot of it comes from maybe men who feel there's something wrong with that, like the way they see themselves or view themselves, that they feel the need to have to exert their will over someone else. And I don't know how the best way to like help those men. Do you know what I mean? Like they need to work on themselves.
Why does this campaign resonate with you, Connagh?
I think it's really important to sort of, as men, to take responsibility for, you know, our role to play, preventing violence against women and helping women feel safer in society, because I think a lot of men might think, oh, well, I'm not like that, so it's not my responsibility, but it is. Like it is our responsibility to do what we can to improve the situation, really. So I think that's, for me, that's what really resonated with me, and I was really excited to obviously, you know, contribute in any way that I can. It does take a lot of courage to hold someone accountable for when you see something that isn't right. If you keep your mates in check, and if they are really your mates, then, you know, they should listen to you, and then they should take what you say on board, because, you know, that's what your friends are for. They should keep you in check and make sure you're not, you know, you're not contributing to the problem.
Being in shape and keep it fit has always been a big part of your life, especially going into the villa and then coming out of it as well. Has it always kind of been a part of your identity?
Very much so. Not a lot of people know this about me. So like, I have a condition called dyspraxia, which affects your coordination and your motor skills. Very bendy joints. I had to have like special like knives and forks and like a pen and stuff. You know, I look back and I laugh at it now. So that was a big reason that my parents pushed me into like sports to try and help with that. So, you know, rugby, boxing, all these things that would help my hand-eye coordination skills. That kind of progressed from like playing sports to then like finding the gym and then falling in love with that. If I don't have that, I feel like the rest of my life sort of spirals a little bit, and it's the thing that keeps me constant. I also have therapy as well, and that I think has been a big thing for me, being able to talk to someone else as well about, like, you know, just issues throughout life. So I think maybe being open to that as well is a really powerful thing, because I was very closed-minded to it. Like, no, I don't need that, I don't want anything to do that, because I feel like a lot of men maybe see it as a sign of weakness, but it's not necessarily. If you view it from a lens of like you're improving yourself, it's just other part of self-improvement. So like, you know, for me, I was like my logic was, well, if I'm willing to put the effort in, you know, myself physically, why not, you know, with my mindset and my mental well-being as well. Yeah. So I think, yeah, if you don't have like a person, like a friend or a family member that you can go to, that is always an option as well.
You had a personal trainer who helped shape you and push you out of your comfort zone, and now you do that for people as well, especially women. When your clients come to you, is there a certain desire to kind of, the motivation for them keeping fit is to kind of look a certain way and to keep in trend with what is trendy in terms of body image at the minute? Initially
on the surface, that's what they all say. But then when I'm having consultations with these women, it's usually a lot deeper than that. And then you start digging a little bit deeper. Okay, well, why? Why do you want to? Well, I don't really feel good when I see myself, or I don't feel confident around my partner anymore. I think it's particularly bad in the fitness industry as well. You're constantly comparing yourself to other people who are in the industry, and you might see someone and think, oh, that's something that's attainable and normal. Why do I not look like that? But then little do they know that like those images could be very heavily edited, lighting, angles, all these sort of things. So it's everything that you see online, you need to take with a grain of salt for sure.
And you mentioned that, you know, women come to you and talk about kind of health problems. I know you and your partner have gone through your own kind of fertility journey, IVF. Why did you want to go ahead and make something like that, which is so private, public?
Yeah. I'll be 100% honest. I never thought that I would be in the position where I would struggle with having kids. I just always thought it was a given, it would be fine. Like, you just never think about it. But then you'd be surprised is incredibly common. Just through my partner Beth, she's had so many messages of other women who are in the same position, like saying like, do you know what, thank you so much for sharing the realities, like, or they might be about to go through the process, and it helps to give them an idea of what to expect as well. I think there's a lot of shame around it for a lot of women. I think a lot of women are embarrassed or ashamed, and they won't say like, oh yeah, we're having fertility issues. So I think if you're seeing more people talk about it, it allows you to normalise it a lot more. It has been very eye-opening for sure. A lot of these issues that I was never completely unaware of. You know, I think it is a lot of pressure, a lot of unfair pressure on the women. Or it's the woman's problem. It's not. It's the man and the woman's problem. So yeah.
Did, you know, what you guys went through have any pressure on the relationship? And also, if there was pressure, how did you kind of support one another through that as well?
Yeah. I'll be honest. It was hard, very hard at some times, and you could see why that situation can break couples if you're not strong together and you're not willing to support one another. We had challenges. We had arguments, we had like vulnerable moments. Like, it's not an easy journey, but at the end of it, it makes you realize kind of like, you know, you both want this thing so badly to work, and it ultimately does bring you closer together, and you do become like a united front. Sound it out, get sound advice, be sound as.